Now, when it comes to the Holy Priest, it has actually got a very satisfying feel to healing, especially when you start seeing really big HPS without feeling like you're doing too much. It's quite the complete opposite to a Disc Priest, where as a Disc Priest you feel like you're spamming constantly, shield, 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 penance, prayer amending. You're almost filling every single global cooldown as a Disc Priest, whereas as a Holy Priest you can just sit back, relax, watch your prayer amending jumping around, using it on cooldown constantly, big circle of healing causing instant cast flash heal procs. You are a HPS machine. The only thing is, like I said on the disc video, if you haven't seen it, check it out. I'll put a link in the description below and a card up the top now. It doesn't feel like it brings anything unique outside of just big heals and high HPS, which you can get from other places such as Holy Paladins, Resto Shamans, Resto Druids. Whereas as a Disc Priest, you're bringing all this raid damage reduction through the use of absorption shields. Holy just has a very different playstyle, and which one you prefer between Discipline and Holy will be ultimately down to you, but both specs have their own place in the raiding scene. And if you're a diehard healer, you might choose to have a Discipline spec and a Holy spec and switch between for whichever is most appropriate for the fight at hand. So what we're going to look at is new abilities that you get in your arsenal. Some of that may be repeated from the Discipline video because ultimately you're still a healer, the same abilities are going to apply. We're not going to look at Shadow, that's going to be in a separate video coming tomorrow, or maybe even this evening, depending on what time I post this. So we're going to look at new abilities, we're going to then look at the talent, then we're going to look at glyphs that are useful for Holy and only Holy, a little look at some minor glyphs, and then maybe some final thoughts from me. So before we get stuck in, if you haven't hit that like button already, hit that like button please, it really helps out more than you know. Consider subscribing to the channel, and thank you to all of you guys scrolling along at the bottom who have joined the channel as members. If you want to find out more how to support the channel, stay right till the end. But let's go. New abilities for the Holy Priest. There isn't any. Right, onto the talents. No, there are, but there's just not that many. We're not going to talk about abilities that come from talents. We're literally just going to look at new abilities or how abilities have changed. So the first thing worth mentioning is Divine Spirit and Prayer of Spirit are no longer a talent. Every priest gets these. So as a Holy Priest, you will have Divine Spirit. There is no longer improved Divine Spirit like you get in TBC, where you actually increase spell damage and healing by an amount equal to 10% of your total spirit. There is no longer improved Divine Spirit, it is just Divine Spirit. So improved Divine Spirit from talents has gone, but every priest gets Divine Spirit now. Inner Fire has gone through a change, so it still increases your armor, but you now get spell power from it as well, and you can further improve this, the amount of spell power you get, through talents, which we'll look at shortly. It also now lasts 30 minutes instead of 10 minutes and gets a lot more charges from talents, which we'll see soon. Mana burn in TBC would destroy a set amount of mana, so 1021 to 1079 from the target, and each mana destroyed would deal 0.5 shadow damage. Mana burn has gone for a bit of a rework where it destroys 10% of the target's mana up to a maximum of 20% of your own. So if we look at 20% of my max mana, let's round up and say we've got 20,000. You're going to be able to burn a maximum of 4,000 mana, but also only 10% of theirs. So if I mirrored myself and casted mana burn on myself with 20, let's again rounding up, say 20,000 mana, the maximum I could do is 4,000 due to my mana pool, but the maximum I'm going to be able to get mana burn by is 2,000, also due to my mana pool. Hopefully that made sense. The old symbol of hope racial for a priest is now Hymn of Hope, and every priest gets it. You also get Divine Hymn, but Hymn of Hope restores 3% mana to 3 nearby low mana friendly targets or raid targets every 1.82 seconds for 7.27 seconds. This is obviously based off my haste. And it also increases their total maximum mana by 20% for 8 seconds. Maximum of 12 mana restores. The priest must channel to maintain the spell. Now, you don't want to forget you've got this, you want to use it regularly. Then Divine Hymn is similar, but this is for HPS instead of MPS. So this heals 3 nearby lowest health friendly party or raid targets within 48 yards for 3628 to 4011 every 1.82 seconds for 7.27 seconds, again based on my haste, and increases healing done to them by 10% for 8 seconds. Maximum of 12 heals, and the priest must channel the spell to maintain it. And as you can see, it looks very nice, and it does an absolute chunk of healing. For a Holy Priest, or even for a Disc Priest, outside of that, nothing's really changed. Nothing's changed drastic enough to speak about, basically. But one thing you might want to ask, and hopefully I can answer before you ask it, is there down ranking when it comes to healing? Because actually, as a Holy Priest, down ranking can be very important, and a lot of priests do it. No, down ranking in Wrath of the Lich King is dead. Should have mentioned that in previous healing videos, actually, but it was only someone's comment that actually sparked off my thought of maybe I should have actually mentioned that, but no, you don't down rank. Let's look at the Holy Talents. Hopefully we can tear through these, because actually there's not that much changed. So we're going to gloss over any minor changes or just movements. So basically the first tier and even the second tier are exactly the same. There is one minor change in Tier 3 where we now get Desperate Prayer if you choose to take it in place of Holy Nova in TBC. And the reason Holy Nova's not in the talents anymore is because every priest gets Holy Nova as standard. The next tier also remains almost identical except for Holy Reach now also applies to Divine Hymn. That's why it seems like it's gone absolute monstrous range of 48 yards. There's also no change in the following tier at all, so we've still got Healing Prayers reducing the mana cost by up to 20% of our Prayer of Healing and Prayer of Mending. Spirit of Redemption is still there lasting 15 seconds and giving you 5% spirit. And Spiritual Guidance also is still the same, increasing our spell power by 25% of our total spirit. The following tier is also exactly the same. I could have probably just tacked this on at the end of the Disc Priest video, actually, because it's not until we get really deep down that we're going to get some meaningful talents. But it just goes to show, TBC Holy Priest, almost perfect. So Surge of Light remains exactly the same, with your spell crits having a 50% chance for your next Smite and Flash Heal spell to be instant cast, cost no mana but not be able to critically hit, and Spiritual Healing increasing the amount healed by your healing spells by 10%, also remains exactly the same. Here's where we get some quite meaningful changes, because Holy Concentration now, as it stands in TBC, gives you a 6% chance to enter a clear casting state after casting any Flash Heal, Binding Heal or Greater Heal spell. The clear casting state reduces the mana cost of your next Flash Heal, Bind Heal or Greater Heal by 100%, also known as making it free. Whereas what it actually does now is your mana regen from Spirit is increased by 50% for 8 seconds after you critically heal with one of those spells, so Flash Heal, Greater Heal, Binding Heal or Empowered Renew. You don't know what Empowered Renew is, but you will in a minute. But following one of those critting and getting an additional 50% of mana regen from Spirit is actually very nice. Arguably, I would prefer the clear casting proc, but that's just me. Lightwell is still in the game, still rarely used, even though it is actually a very, very good heal. People sleep on Lightwell, but actually if you've got a raid full of people who use it properly, it is very, very good. And it's only on a 3-minute cooldown now, opposed to the 6-minute cooldown that it's on in TBC. So in TBC, Blessed Resilience is critical hits made against you have a 60% chance to prevent you from being critically hit again for 6 seconds. That has actually now changed in Wrath, so it also increases the effectiveness of your healing spells by 1%, so 3% with 3 points. This arguably is a talent that every Holy Priest should have in because it's just a flat 3% healing, but I've been playing with some niche talent builds recently. Body and Soul is an absolute lovely one, which I would love to use, but as I say, ignore my talents at the moment. When you cast Power Word Shield, you increase your target's movement speed by 30% for 4 seconds, and you have a 50% chance when you cast Abolish Disease on yourself to also cleanse one poison effect in addition to diseases. So that will go up to 100% chance. Now, this is really nice for tanks, and I think tanks will really appreciate the movement speed, you know, if you was using it as, I'm not going to say as a cooldown, but, you know, if you know there's a phase where a tank needs to move out or a melee needs to move out or something like that, and you can just give them that Absorb Shield and increase their movement speed. It's definitely got a place, it's just not got a place in the content that I'm doing at the moment. Empowered Healing has basically doubled in its value, so it now gives your Greater Heal an additional 40% and your Flash Heal and Binding Heal an additional 20% of your bonus healing effects, whereas in TBC it's only 20% and 10%, so that's a very nice big buff. And now Serendipity is a very nice one. When you heal with a Binding Heal or Flash Heal, the cast time of your next Greater Heal or Prayer of Healing spell is reduced by 12%, stacking up to 3 times. So if you get a few real quick Flash Heals out to stack up your Serendipity there, you can see, so it's on 2 stacks, and now we've got a 36% reduction in cast time on Prayer of Healing or Greater Heal, so that makes a 1.5 second Greater Heal healing for nearly 10,000 damage. Really, really nice. So we might as well start with Circle of Healing first. It's now on a 6-second cooldown where it's got no cooldown in TBC. It heals up to 5 friendly party or raid members within 18 yards of the target, and it's just really bloody juicy. It's great. It can proc Surge of Light. It does really good healing. It seems very smart, very intuitive heal. You'll love it. It's great. Just being able to more or less use it on cooldown every 6 seconds when people are taking damage. You can more or less go all the way through a heroic 5-man just pressing this. Well, and Pom if you wanted to. But I'd be lazy and just press this. So now all juicy new stuff. So Empowered Renew. Your Renew spell gains an additional 15% of your bonus healing, and your Renew will instantly heal the target for 15% of the total periodic effect. So as you can see here, it does about 1.2k in my gear level on cast, 1.8k, but it also procced Surge of Light to give me an instant cast Flash Heal when it crit. So going back up to Holy Concentration, now you can see when your mana regen from Spirit is increased by 50% after a critical heal, and it's specifically said Empowered Renew. So it also, when your Renew crits by You could be spamming it on your party, getting everyone hotted up before there's some big damage coming in. And you'll also now be able to proc your Holy Concentration, increasing your mana regen. Test of Faith is nice because it's just a flat 12% extra healing on all targets if they're below 50% health. Now, Divine Providence is great, so it increases the amount healed by Circle of Healing, Binding Heal, Holy Nova, Prayer of Healing, Divine Hymn, and Prayer of Mending by 10%, and reduces the cooldown of Prayer of Mending by 30%. So now your Prayer of Mending is only on a 7-second cooldown, and as Holy, Prayer of Mending does a lot of healing. And then finally, Guardian Spirit. One you don't want to use too often, and I say you don't want to use it too often because you don't want to predict your tank's death, but it calls upon a Guardian Spirit to watch over the friendly target. The Spirit increases the healing received by the target by 40%, and also prevents the target from dying by sacrificing itself. This sacrifice terminates the effect, but heals the target of 50% of their maximum health. Now, for a tank cooldown, this is absolutely massive. And if you know there's massive tank healing about to come in and you don't want to focus on the tank too much because, you know, there's a lot of raid healing, a good example would be Hodir. So it does an ability called Frozen Blows where it starts smacking the tank really hard, but also doing like a pulsing AoE for about 4k on the raid. So for you to be able to stick this on the tank, so the Holy Paladin's heals are going to be doing 40% more to him while you switch and start throwing your poms around, doing Prayer of Healing, Circle of Healing on the raid, absolutely amazing. And put it on a prop Paladin. I mean, how many extra lives do they really need? We'll really quickly just dip into the disc talents. If you haven't seen the disc video, again, please go and watch it. But Twin Disciplines has now replaced one specialization, and it now gives you an extra 5% damage and healing. Improved Inner Fire is where you can increase the amount of spell power you gain from your Inner Fire by 45%, and it also increases the number of charges by 12. Improved Power Word Fortitude. Not only does it enhance the effect of Power Word Fortitude by 30%, it also gives you 4% stamina now as well. And then everything else really remains the same other than meditation. So this now allows 50% of your mana regen to continue while casting, whereas in TBC it was in a slightly different position. It was actually where Improved Power Word Shield is, and it only gave 30%. In a nutshell, I need a drink. Sorry, that was a lot of talking. In a nutshell, that's Holy. They're the changes. As I say, until you get deep into the Holy Tree, there's not that many changes, but actually, I have a lot of fun healing on a Holy Priest. And as I say, if you use the toolkit you've got, which is vast, you've got a big toolkit, a heal for everything, you know, Binding Heal, POM, POH, COH, you got like all the H's, a heal for like every single circumstance. So if you get really confident as a Holy Priest and you use those abilities and you time your Guardian Spirit when you know it's going to get the most use, not necessarily when the tank's going to die, but when the tank will benefit from that extra healing so you can focus on the raid and maybe leave a tank healer being able to keep that tank up now thanks to Guardian Spirit so you can focus on everyone else. Really, really good. And as I say, outside of that, with your Divine Hymn, your Hymn of Hope, you've just got an amazing toolkit. So, can we add to that toolkit or make any of these abilities stronger with Glyphs? When Inscription gets added, you can get 3 major glyphs and 3 minor glyphs. The 3 minor glyphs are normally just quality of life, such as removing the reagent cost from Levitate, or removing the reagent cost for Rebirth as a Druid. And then the major glyphs are more meaningful. They normally add some form of DPS or HPS or mana regen or extra cleave, extra AoE. You know, they just make abilities more useful. I'm not going to go over them all, just the ones that are useful for Holy or what I consider useful for Holy. So it's not an exhaustive list. Still go and have a look at these for yourself. But let's take a look at the glyphs. We'll start with the minor ones first. I normally start with the major ones, but the minor ones are really boring. So you can reduce the mana cost of your Fade spell by 30%. You can reduce the mana cost of your Power Word Fortitude and Prayer of Fortitude spells by 50%. This could be nice just to get buffed up and not have to sit and drink afterwards, but ultimately still pretty boring. Levitate's a great one, and I think this is what most priests will use because this removes the reagent cost of your Levitate. So no longer worrying about carrying reagents around in your bag. Obviously, that's always going to be a good minor glyph. Same really goes for Shadow Fiend. One of your primary ways of getting mana back is using your Shadow Fiend, and if it dies, you stop getting mana back. So using this minor glyph, if it does die, it's not as punishing because you are at least going to get a small consolation prize of 5% of your maximum mana. Shadow Protection just increases the duration of Shadow Protection and Prayer of Shadow Protection by 10 minutes. And then Shackle Undead could be another useful one maybe if you wanted to use it, increasing the range of your Shackle Undead spells by 5 yards. But ultimately, out of all of these, I'd say the 3 that you'd probably be using the majority of the time would be Levitate, Shadow Fiend, and Fading. I think those are the ones that are useful either during a boss fight or just have good enough quality of life aspects to them to warrant taking up one of those slots. So Circle of Healing is almost a no-brainer to anything bigger than a heroic dungeon. But even a heroic dungeon it can be useful in if you've got a hunter or a warlock or a DK, something with a pet. But really, you're going to want this for 10 and 25 man raiding almost 100% of the time. Glyph of Flash Heal can be useful if you have mana issues and you find yourself flash healing a lot because it just reduces the mana cost of your flash heal by 10%. Glyph of Guardian Spirit is a very nice one because if your Guardian Spirit lasts the entire duration without being triggered, the cooldown is reset to 1 minute. Now that's huge. So every minute you can give the tank 10 seconds of 40% extra healing as long as you don't let them die. Massive. If you happen to use Lightwell, you got Glyph of Lightwell increasing the amount healed by 20%, but I'd imagine the majority of people won't even put a talent in it, let alone glyph it. Glyph of Holy Nova can increase the damage and healing of your Holy Nova spell by an additional 20%. Could be useful in niche circumstances, but you're rarely really going to use Holy Nova anyway. Glyph of Prayer of Healing is a great one for Holy, really good choice. Your Prayer of Healing spell also heals an additional 20% of its initial heal over 6 seconds. Glyph of Renew, not that great because it reduces the duration of Renew by 3 seconds, but increases the amount healed by each tick by 25%. The reason I'm not a fan of this is because it actually reduces the amount of people that you could keep Renew on at one time if you was trying to get a bit of a renew blanket going on before big raid healing was needed. You don't want to be dying as a priest, but if you do, at least if you use Glyph of Spirit of Redemption, you can increase the duration of Spirit of Redemption by 6 seconds. Outside of this, there are others. You could use Hymn of Hope, you could use Sphere Ward, but honestly, I'd say they're the major ones. The ones that I've covered are the main ones that you potentially would use at some point or another. So, should you play a Holy Priest? Find out when I do the Should You Play a Holy Priest video. I'm not even joking. Yes, Holy Priest really fun. Me personally, I prefer Disc. You know, I'm always going to be honest with you boys. I prefer playing Disc, but Holy is great as well. I like mixing it up. I don't mind, you know, if there's another Disc Priest, I don't mind being the guy that goes Holy to be able to get into this pug, or, you know, even if it was a guild raid and there was a Disc Priest online that wanted to go, I'd happily be the one that goes Holy. Because ultimately, big HPS, you feel like you've got a lot of control, but you also feel like you've got a lot of control as Disc. So you'll have to make your own mind up which you prefer, Discipline or Holy. Next video going out, of course, will be Shadow, and then that's going to bring the Priest to a close. So I'm going to roll the outro so you can find out all the different ways you can support the channel and keep the content coming. There's lots of ways you can support the channel to keep me here putting out World of Warcraft content and covering all future MMOs. Consider joining the channel as a member. You get access to emotes. Everyone will know you're a member when you comment on future videos because you get a nice icon next to your name. And you get access to members only videos, which I'll be putting a lot of on the channel throughout the year. Additionally, there's a Patreon link in the description as well. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, and I'll see you on the next one.